There are days that bring light, and there are days that bring power. Today, the sun enters Scorpio, and the energy changes completely. It is no longer about calm, it is about truth. Everything that was hidden begins to move. Masks crack, intentions are revealed, and power changes hands. If you have been feeling that something inside you is asking for more depth, it is because the superficial cycle is over. Scorpio does not seek lightness, it seeks essence. And the sun, in crossing this sign, ignites the fire of those who are ready to be reborn. If this message resonates with what you feel, write in the comments, "I claim my power." Because the Scorpio season does not reward appearances, it rewards presence. When the sun enters Scorpio, it does not rise into the sky, it descends. And in this descent, it forces us to look at what is on the ground, not what is in the clouds. Here, the brightness does not come from reflection, but from resistance. It is the fire that stays lit even under the weight of darkness. The energy of Scorpio is the deepest point of the zodiac. It is the dive where light does not reach easily. And for that reason, whoever ignites their own fire there never loses it again. The sun in this sign does not seek applause, it seeks essence. And the price of essence is the exposure of that which you avoid looking at. Perhaps it is an old fear. Perhaps it is a resentment you thought you had forgotten. Perhaps it is a part of you that grew tired of hiding to please the world. Scorpio is the sign that unmasks the soul. And the sun, crossing this territory, acts like a blade. It cuts what is illusory, separates what is true. It does not punish, it reveals. And the revelation, however uncomfortable it may seem, is always a form of healing. The shadow is not the enemy. The shadow is the deposit of the power you stopped using. Everything you repressed, the anger, the ambition, the desire, the fear, now wants to return as vital force. And if you can welcome this without judging yourself, you will realize what you called darkness was just misunderstood energy. This is the secret teaching of the sun in Scorpio. The power you seek is not above, but below. It is in what you survived, in the truths you had the courage to face. Whoever faces their own shadow does not lose light, they multiply it. Because true enlightenment is not erasing the dark, it is learning to walk in it with open eyes. Today, the sun begins this process within you. And as much as the external world seems to demand speed, Scorpio demands depth. It does not want movement. It wants transformation. It wants to see if you are willing to let die what no longer serves. Ideas, masks, justifications. Symbolic death is not an end. It is a restart. The scorpionic fire is that which purifies. It burns the lie, evaporates the illusion, and leaves only the gold of consciousness. Therefore, if something in your life seems to be crumbling now, do not fight it. It may just be the natural process of the sun, illuminating what was too old to remain. And if fear appears, remember, fear is the guardian of your next version. You do not need to prove anything to anyone. The sun in Scorpio does not ask for witnesses. It asks for surrender. It is watching what happens in your silence, when no one else is looking, when you decide to continue even without guarantees. This is the mark of the initiates of this energy, to keep walking even in the dark, because they have already understood that it is there that the fire grows stronger. So before trying to show light to the world, ignite yours in the place where no one else dared to look. This is the call of the season, and whoever answers this call will not just cross the dark, they will command it. When the sun enters Scorpio, it doesn't just illuminate the sky, it exposes what was hidden inside people. And this doesn't happen subtly. Scorpionic energy has a habit of revealing what you didn't want to see, precisely because it's time to deal with it. Everything that was swept under the rug begins to feel heavy. Lies, postures, decisions based on fear. None of it survives when the light shines through the shadow. Scorpio cannot stand energetic falsehood. It forces coherence. This solar phase is like a spotlight that doesn't choose the most beautiful angle. It shows what truly exists. And for many, this revelation might feel like a loss of control, but it's the opposite. It is the moment when you finally reclaim power over your own narrative. The truth that Scorpio brings is not punitive. It is surgical. It cuts away what is still draining your energy, even if that means breaking ties, changing routes, or admitting old mistakes. But the result is freedom. There is a point where hiding becomes more painful than being seen. And that is the point the sun touches now. It reveals not to humiliate, but to purify. The soul can no longer bear to maintain the appearance of something it is not. Perhaps in recent months, you have felt the universe starting to bring you face to face with situations that force you to be more authentic before others, and especially before yourself. This is the effect of the sun. In Scorpio, it removes the veneer of superficial spirituality and demands emotional truth. The intensity of this energy comes from the fact that Scorpio governs the extremes: life and death, light and darkness, pleasure and pain. And that is why it is impossible to pretend during this season. Either you live what you preach, or the incoherence consumes you from the inside. This is a spiritual cleansing, not a moral one. No one is being punished. No one is being tested by an invisible judge. It is just the soul itself, tired of carrying old versions, asking for authenticity. Every time you tell the truth, even while trembling, you cut a link with the past. Every time you choose what is real and not what is convenient, you get closer to your power. And power here has nothing to do with control. It has to do with clarity. Whoever has clarity doesn't need to manipulate, they just direct. The sun in Scorpio brings a period when masks fall off naturally. Relationships show their true intentions. Plans show whether they are sustainable or not. And everything that lacks structure collapses. Not because of a curse, but because of a lack of truth. You can try to disguise it, but no disguise can withstand this frequency. It cuts through illusions like a blade, and at the same time, offers you a rare power, the chance to rebuild your life based on something that is real. This is the function of this light, to show you what is still genuine, because only what is genuine can grow here. Scorpio does not multiply lies, it dissolves them. And what remains after the dissolution is always pure. Today, the sun invites you to do something simple, but powerful. Look at everything you call a problem and ask, where am I still pretending? Because behind every conflict, there is a part of you trying to show you the truth you are avoiding. And when you accept to see it, the weight disappears. The truth, as harsh as it may seem, liberates. The lie, as comfortable as it may sound, imprisons. This is the code that governs scorpionic energy. Power is born when the lie dies. The Scorpio season is remembered by many as an intense phase, but in truth, it is a phase of lucidity. Lucidity about what needs to die and about what still deserves to continue. The death here is not literal. It is symbolic, spiritual, and inevitable. It is the moment when the sun, illuminating the underworld, begins to show the parts of life that have already lost their function. And that is when fear tries to speak louder. Humans fear the end because they believe everything ends with it. But Scorpio's energy reveals that nothing truly dies. Everything just changes form. Relationships, identities, beliefs, roles, all of this dissolves to release energy. And the sun, at this point, acts as the great catalyst for this dissolution. You might feel this process in various ways: a sudden tiredness with something that used to motivate you, a desire to change environments, or a clarity that arrives without warning, showing what no longer makes sense. These signs are not coincidence. They are warnings from the sun itself, saying that something needs to be concluded before it can be reborn. Resistance to this process creates pain, but surrender creates power. There is an ancient strength in the act of consciously letting go. Whoever knows how to end something before being forced by destiny demonstrates spiritual maturity. It is the difference between losing and offering. Scorpio understands this mystery. It knows that what is taken from us was never truly ours. It was just a temporary loan, an experience to generate learning. And when you accept this, everything changes. You stop fighting against the inevitable and start cooperating with the movement of life. This is conscious death, the moment when you actively participate in your own rebirth. There is nothing dark about this. The fear of dying is, in fact, the fear of changing. But when you allow the old to die, the new does not need to fight to be born. It simply emerges naturally. The sun in Scorpio wants to teach you this mastery, the ability to transform without trauma, to abandon what needs to go without feeling like a victim of destiny, to understand that every apparent loss is a return of power. When you let go, the universe returns control over what is yours by essence. But if you insist on holding on to what has already ended, the energy stagnates, the field freezes, and the future does not manifest. Conscious death is an act of trust. It is looking at something that was once important and saying, "I thank you, but my time here is over." It is at this point that Scorpio shows its strength. It is not destruction, it is regeneration. The scorpionic fire burns what is false to reveal the gold of consciousness. And this gold, contrary to what many think, is not material. It is lucidity. The clarity of one who knows what they carry and what they no longer need. Today, perhaps your soul is asking for a closure. Perhaps something needs to die. A cycle, a role, a way of thinking. And if that is the case, do not be afraid to say goodbye. The sun is illuminating the path so that the new can arrive. It is not about getting rid of things in a hurry. It is about recognizing the point at which they have already fulfilled their function. And when you understand that, death transforms into liberation. The secret of scorpionic energy is simple. Whoever learns to die on purpose is never surprised by the end. And whoever dies with consciousness is reborn with power. After something dies inside you, silence sets in. But this silence is not empty, it is fertile. It is within it that instinct awakens. The sun in Scorpio reignites an ancient form of intelligence, one that doesn't come from reasoning, but from perception. It is the kind of wisdom you don't need to explain, because you simply know. You know when something is wrong, even if no one says so. You know when it's time to act and when it's time to wait. This is the true scorpionic gift, the sharp intuition that sees the invisible. After so many symbolic deaths, the soul begins to operate on a deeper level. You begin to feel before you think. And what once seemed like confusion now becomes direction. Instinct is not irrational. It is primitive and sacred. It is the soul's compass when the mind doesn't yet understand the path. And at this point in the solar cycle, the universe wants you to trust this radar again. Modern society tries to domesticate instinct. It teaches you to doubt your own feelings, to rationalize everything, to to follow only what is proven. But Scorpio doesn't play on that field. It reminds you that all real transformation is born from what is felt, not from what is calculated. When the sun enters this sign, it returns to the body, the role of an oracle. The body speaks, the chills, the sudden fatigue, the vivid dreams. Everything becomes a message. Scorpionic energy speaks through signs, not logic. And whoever ignores these signs ends up repeating patterns that should have already ended. You might perceive this clearly now. The things that drain your energy begin to show themselves distinctly. Heavy environments, forced conversations, people who vibrate off your axis. Everything that is not in alignment begins to repel you naturally. This isn't rejection. It's energetic selection. Instinct is protecting you. It is guiding you away from what weakens you and toward what strengthens you. But to hear it, you must stop doubting. Scorpio is the sign of control. But the true control it teaches isn't about the world, it's about yourself. To master instinct is not to stifle it, it's to translate it. It's to understand what the body wants to say before acting on impulse. This is the spiritual maturity the sun comes to ignite now, to act with precision, to feel with depth, to react with consciousness. You no longer need to choose between reason and emotion. Instinct, when refined by truth, becomes the link between the two. The sun in Scorpio doesn't want you to live on alert, but in presence. It wants you to trust your own power, to feel again, without fear of being wrong. Because whoever truly feels is rarely mistaken. This is the point where the shadow begins to work in your favor. Before, it confused you, now it warns you. It shows you where you still give energy to things that give you nothing back. And the more you listen, the more the body aligns with the spirit. Today, perhaps the universe asks only one thing of you. Listen to what you already know, even if you can't explain it yet. It is not the time to seek confirmation. It is time to trust your own reading. Scorpio teaches that the soul does not speak in words. It speaks through sensation. And that sensation is your most ancient truth. The instinct that is reborn now is the same one that has always protected you. You had just forgotten the sound of your own intuition. After crossing the shadow and rediscovering instinct, the sun in Scorpio gives us what is perhaps the greatest gift of this season, the power of regeneration. It is not a theatrical power or an instant miracle. It is the silent capacity to return to life, even after having seen what looked like the end. Scorpionic energy is cyclical by nature. It does not deny destruction, it uses it. Everything that collapses serves as a foundation for something more solid. Everything that breaks becomes raw material for the new. And the sun, as it passes through this sign, reactivates this code in each of us. It reminds us that life is not linear, it is spiral. Nothing is truly lost, everything is transformed. You just change form, purpose, direction. It is common, at this point in the cycle, to realize that what seemed like failure was actually preparation. That which wounded you also refined you. And what seemed like loss revealed what was never essential. Regeneration doesn't happen because the universe takes pity. It happens because you finally stop resisting your own process. And when you stop resisting, the flow begins to circulate again. Scorpio understands the soul as a laboratory. Each pain is a chemical substance with the potential for healing. But, as in any alchemy, it requires fire, the fire of consciousness. Without it, suffering repeats itself. With it, suffering transforms into wisdom. The sun illuminates the internal furnace, that place where you process everything you have lived, and the result depends on your posture before it. Whoever faces pain with anger creates ashes. Whoever faces pain with presence creates light. Regeneration begins when you stop wanting to go back to being who you were. Because true rebirth is not about recovering the old version, it is about honoring it and moving forward as someone more whole. Many feel this passage physically. The body changes its rhythm, sleep alters, emotions become more intense. It is not fragility, it is an update. Your energetic field is reconfiguring itself to sustain a new level of truth. Scorpio rules everything that is invisible, the unconscious, magnetism, the power of attraction and repulsion. Therefore, the sun in this sign doesn't just act on the visible, it stirs the field. You may not understand what is happening, but you will feel it. People drift away, paths open up, other doors close without logical explanation. And all of this is part of regeneration. Scorpionic energy does not tolerate excess. It eliminates what is heavy. It cuts what drains. And what remains is always what matters. If you are going through a cleansing process, emotional or spiritual, remember, what is being removed now is what could not accompany your new cycle. It is not punishment, it is purification. Scorpio makes your field magnetic only to what is true. And that is the greatest power anyone can have. Regeneration is not about becoming strong again. It is about discovering a new form of strength. It is understanding that vulnerability is also power, because it allows energy to circulate without resistance. The sun in Scorpio gives you the chance to live in a different way, without masks, without fear of changing, without needing to prove anything. Real power is silent. It doesn't need to assert itself. It sustains itself through coherence. At this point in the journey, you no longer need to understand the why of things. You just need to trust that you are being led to your most authentic form. And when this understanding settles in, something profound happens. The soul relaxes, and the body returns to breathing in the same rhythm as the universe. This is the secret of regeneration. It is not about healing yourself. It is about letting life flow again. And when it flows, everything returns to its proper place. The sun in Scorpio watches in silence. It does not interfere. It only witnesses the moment when the human being finally understands that power is not in avoiding the end, but in knowing how to begin again as many times as necessary. And in that instant, the sacred fire reignites, not as destruction, but as a promise. What is reborn now is reborn to last. When the sun reaches the final layers of the sign of Scorpio, the process becomes quieter, but no less intense. After having descended into the shadows, faced losses, and been reborn, the soul is now called to sustain what it discovered. It is not enough to have awakened, it is necessary to live up to one's own truth. This is the moment when the universe begins to test coherence. And the test is never external. It is not the world that challenges you. It is your own consciousness verifying if your words still match your vibration. Scorpio does not tolerate disguises, and the sun here acts as an absolute mirror. It shows how much of you is really you. It shows where there is still theater, where truth was exchanged for convenience, and where the soul settled for half-truths so as not to lose security. The energy now is demanding. The sun wants to see if the newly recovered power is being used responsibly, because all real transformation demands consequences. There is no going back to sleep after consciousness awakens. This is the Scorpionic truth. Enlightenment is not a destination, it is a duty. And with every step taken in the direction of truth, a new shadow appears to be integrated, not as punishment, but as confirmation that you are still alive, human, learning. At this point in the solar cycle, what matters is not how much you shone, but how much you remained whole when no one was watching. Scorpio measures power by the ability to remain faithful to what is real, even if it costs comfort. You might notice that the energy around you begins to ask for clearer decisions. Situations that could previously be postponed now require a stance. It is the sun demanding commitment to the truth, and the truth here is not an abstract idea, it is practical. It is the no that needs to be said. It is the boundary that needs to be reaffirmed. It is the path that must be followed, even without applause. The sun in Scorpio doesn't want to see you perfect. It wants to see you authentic. It wants to see you whole, even if in pieces. It wants to see you acting out of conviction and not out of fear. And perhaps this is the most liberating part of this journey, realizing that power is not about defeating anyone, but about not betraying yourself. The world may doubt you, people may misunderstand you, but if your soul is at peace, you have won. This is how the Scorpionic cycle ends, with the return to absolute truth. Not the truth that is imposed on others, but the one that is sustained in silence, the one that doesn't need to be defended, only lived. This energy teaches that truth is not a weapon, it is a state of presence. And when you begin to live in it, life aligns itself without effort. Relationships are filtered, the right opportunities appear, and what is not yours dissolves naturally. The sun at this stage no longer wants to shine alone. It wants to radiate authenticity. It wants to see you using the newly discovered power not to control, but to heal. Because healing, in Scorpio, is always collective. When one person chooses the truth, they liberate everyone who was trapped in the same lie. Today, the call is this: simple and direct. Live your truth without performance, without masks, without fear. Not to be admired, but to be free. The sun in Scorpio finishes the process by saying, now that you know who you are, what are you going to do with it? And the answer is it doesn't need to be spoken aloud. It is felt every day in the way you look, choose, and act. From here on, power no longer comes from struggle. It comes from coherence. And coherence is the kind of light that no shadow can extinguish. The sun entered Scorpio, and the stage of the soul has been cleared. Everything that was fragile collapsed. Everything that was true remained. This is the turning point of the solar cycle, the instant when life rewards those who had the courage to cross their own underworld. You are no longer the same as you were yesterday, and that is good. It means you survived the process, and now you carry something inside you that no one can take away. Conscious power. Scorpio does not give this power to those who pretend, nor to those who flee. It gives it to those who faced their own truth without looking away. And if you have come this far, it is because you did exactly that. Now the invitation is simple. Use this strength with purpose, not to prove nor to control, but to sustain what is real. The sun's light in crossing this sign doesn't ask you to shine. It asks you to illuminate. And to illuminate is to live coherently, even when no one is watching. If this message resonated, with what you feel? Write in the comments now. I claim my power. Because this is how the universe recognizes who has truly awakened. From here on, your power will no longer be a secret. It will be your signature.